Sasquatch. Sasquatch is the other fight that it roadblocks some people. Welcome back to the channel. All right, it is time for an updated version of the Grandmaster's Gauntlet guide. I did one, I mean, when it came out, it was actually one of the best videos I had done at that point. I went back and rewatched it and I was like, okay, there's enough difference, enough new champions have come out. We've learned enough. I have access to wonderful information for these incredibly smart players where we should do an updated guide. So here's what it is. I've as you can see, I've pulled here myself, Bryce, Nerd, Felganos, Blaze, Campo, DLL, and I am going to be asking Slaymon if he will contribute to this too. I know he did just live stream his whole run. And that way you have actual evidence. These champions will work as outside of DLL's run, who will be coming up. Let's watch it. Hopefully he streams it or puts out a video on it. It is all, we've already done our runs. DL is theorizing, but he's a smart enough player where if he's theorizing something's going to work, I'm pretty sure it's going to work. In fact, I'm excited to see it actually happen. I will talk briefly maybe about the fights, more about who was used. So you can see, hey, I have this champion, because the fact of the matter is, you know, I used a whole mutant team again. I used it on my first run. I used it again on a second with a slight tweak, and I'm pretty happy with the tweak. But you might not have all of those champions, so I'm going to get out as much. I know this works, so that you can use your roster to go in and do this yourself. Also, as more options become available in the further columns out, I will start putting in this champion may also work, that champion may also work, and there, so on and so forth. It's what we did with the first one. Before I get fully into it, which I will, I want to address this. I did as much as I could in the first version of this too, to address Falcon is often not going to work. There is, Force of Will is the name of the node, which is just not going to allow ability accuracy to be reduced. It's what he is doing. There's a couple fights where he can work, but there's going to be others where he can't. I really don't recommend you bring him in unless it's just purely as a specialist. We have 3 fights that are highlighted in red that can really be roadblocks. We'll talk a little bit about those. I want to highlight them. And then last, I want to remind folks, many people did this with 5 stars. It is very difficult content. I'm not saying you should just jump in without revives or units or however you're planning to go through it. It is difficult and you don't want to get stuck in it, but you can use 5 stars for it. In fact, in run 1, I know quite a few folks did. At the top, you can see my OG videos for it, whole playlist with the original spreadsheet with champions like Elsa Bloodstone being used by Campo. Nerd has a full video on his fight reviews. There's a clip to that. You should check it out, especially if you're interested in using the champions he used. And then DLL has a short vid on his first run. He also has a wonderful in-depth guide on each and every single fight. I highly recommend you check that out as well. There's the spreadsheet will be in the description, and there's links. You can see links here to their channels, right? There's Blaze and everyone's channel. You can go and check that out. All right. I didn't mind doing so much talking because obviously you could be looking at the spreadsheet as we're going. I used a full mutant team. I'll do a little bit of talking about that, and then we'll just say who everyone else used. I used Archangel at the very beginning. I used kind of like a strategic way here. I knew that I wasn't going to be doing this itemless or reviveless. So I actually killed off my APOC, did some damage against that Doom. Wasn't terrible, actually. And then made Archangel a horseman, and then you'll see I built APOC back up. It wasn't bad at all. Really cool to see Bryce using Overseer, and then you see Quake. Quake is definitely efficient in this, and she's not the only 5-star that can work. And then you see Apocalypse. You can see everyone kind of gave various grades. I asked them to give grades for the fight, so you can also measure like, okay, should I be planning on using revives? How many? Keep in mind, these are incredibly high-skilled players. You probably see why they will give different grades than me. It's all relative base. Terax. Terax is a tough fight. I know there are options to solo him. The problem is fitting in those options on the rest of your team. I'm pretty sure folks use Namor, which doesn't work out too badly, being as he is actually an Avenger, and you do need to fight the Thanos, sorry, at the end of all of this. I thought I would have more success with Cable. I absolutely did not. In some ways, I felt like I maybe missed having brought in White Magneto, who I brought in my original run. In this run, I brought in Red Magneto. Overall, I was happy with this, but I will say, I don't think Cable took any fights for me that couldn't have been taken by other champions. And if I was going to make one switch, if I could only make one, I would bring in Hercules. And as you can see, we have Blaze there who used Hercules, gave him a grade of an A for this fight. You can use that because Terax wants to keep attacking in. Hercules can keep intercepting, get your feats of strength up. It can work out really, really well. And I think I could have used Hercules for a lot of the other fights, and potentially the ones I used Cable for. And I don't think that comes to anyone's surprise how well Hercules can work out for this. One thing I want to point out here, a couple things I want to point out. You see, Campo actually did use Kitty, gives it an A-. Felganos used Magic, another 5-star A. DLL is obviously going with the Kitty run. You should know, you can't see it on here, he is planning on bringing in Tigra as well. Actually, I think you can see it. So I think that's important to keep in mind. It's not just Kitty by herself. And then Bryce used Wiccan. Check that fight out. I'm doing everything I can to get the word out on how good Wiccan can be in this game. Bryce has a rank 4. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. I think you're going to enjoy it. Moving on to Modoc, I do want to... Modoc's one to be aware of too. You want to make sure you have an answer. And I don't think it's a surprise that you're seeing very, very powerful champions being used there. I used my Archangel, who again was a horseman. Nick Fury, not a shock, right? Good for something. Wow. And then Apocalypse. I mean, I really think this could have been named the Apocalypse's Challenge or Professor X. Professor X can be so good. You just have to be highly skilled with him. Way to go, Felganos using Shang-Chi. Then you can see more Kitty play, and then, of course, Apocalypse. Vision, a variety of options there. The folks using Kitty, remember, she can phase through, so I think him getting to his SB3, not really a big deal because she's not taking that damage. It makes a lot of sense. I'm actually a little bit jealous. I didn't think about using Kitty. I just wanted to kind of get through the content, to be honest. So I used my Magneto. That's another place where, again, if I could only make one change, it was going to be Hercules. If I could make a second one, I probably would have considered doing like a Kitty team or something like that. But Magneto worked out really well. Spider-Ham, I used Apocalypse. Now, this is important. You want to keep this in mind if you're going to use Apoc. And look at how many Apocalypses are up there for this. You can ramp him up. And I don't just mean get charges, because obviously I started getting his genetic energy or genetic code charges going too to get him fully ramped. But you can intentionally start getting evades, and he will charge up, and then he gets to where he just can't be evaded. It's not like Falcon where it's 100% chance to, reduce a chance to evade or what something like that. He just can't be evaded once he is ramped up. It is percentile based, but if you're familiar with Apocalypse, you're bringing Grandmaster's Gauntlet. I think you're familiar with this mechanic and how it works. And you can really ramp him up there. Also with Spider-Ham's Taunt, you're going to be getting a lot of willpower healing. It's not fun to fight Spider-Ham this way and have that take longer, but you can ramp up your Apocalypse. You can get some healing done, and you can also ramp up his evade charges. It's a really, really nice place to do that. It worked out very, very well for me here. And then as we move on to path 2, or moving on to the second path now, right? Now, remember, my Archangel has already made a horseman, made Weapon X very simple. You get him into that berserk phase, and then you can just start intercepting. He does go more aggressive. It works out really well. You can see Bryce, really skilled player, using Nimrod there, and then Nerd with Apocalypse. And it's not surprising to see these as the main options there. Nimrod, Apocalypse, Archangel. Moving on to Thing. Cable was beautiful for that fight. However, as you can see, there are other options. Very good options who are receiving grades of A. Shang-Chi, that's really, it's nice for Phil. Philmus is a huge Shang-Chi fan. As you know, I'm not a huge fan of taking things with Shang-Chi for a variety of reasons. And I think you can see that, but you can still, B-, not bad. There's going to be problem spots in almost every run. Makes sense that there's one of them. I have heard, I've not seen the evidence, I don't believe, but I have heard that Hercules can actually take this fight too. I'm curious to see if Slade did that, or if I see confirmation or get confirmation, I will definitely put that in one of the other rows. Korg it can be a real problem fight. I ended up using Apocalypse here. You can see Nimrod, Quake. If you can Quake, this can be great, but you got to be very good at your Quaking. Don't just jump in thinking you can do it. Make sure you really can, without the need to parry stun or anything like that. Apocalypse, people using, you can see a variety of grades for. I gave a B+, but we have all the way up to an A. And then DLL, he's got a bit of a team approach. I think he took this fight with Apocalypse in his first run. I don't remember exactly, but there are some issues with that because Korg will or can start hitting very hard into your block. I actually took it with Professor X in my first run. If I remember correctly, I had ramped up X a little bit in that one. I had used him to take out Spider-Ham and things like that. And I felt like if I was just a better Professor X player, probably could have got that solo. So Professor X can work out really well as for you too. Dragon Man, you can see this. The really cool one that because I'm enjoying seeing something that's different or unique we haven't seen before, is Bryce using Overseer. Really smart use of Overseer there. Remember, he eventually gets those special concussions and also that taunt. So that's really cool. I'm excited to see that. Black Panther Civil War. Interesting to see Wiccan use up there. That's really cool. Again, just more and more uses for Wiccan. Not surprised to see this. And then you're seeing our Tiger players coming through here. Blaze, Campo DLL. Really thinking that's going to be a great matchup. That's really interesting to see. Moving on to Path 3. Now, I've started ramping up my Professor X right now, and I'll show you the boost at the end of this, but I was using Power Back Boost. I remember Path 3 was like, wow. This is where it really kicks in. The work I've put into powering up my Professor X. He's ramped up. He was just soloed Nightcrawler, Spider-Gwen, and Domino for me. Really awesome option. I loved using him in Grandmaster's Gauntlet. Not surprising to see Fury being used really well. Nerd coming in with Strife. Strife's a great champion, not just in big Evers content like this, but there he is. This is where Felganos made his Archangel a horseman, so I think it's important to keep in mind for Apocalypse later in the run, right? Because he loses the genetic code, and then seeing all those Apocalypses, not surprising. Again, remember, you can eventually ramp up him as an invade counter, or he could already be one for Nightcrawler and Spider-Gwen as we get into that, though. So it's not shocking to see these matchups. Cool to see DLL thinking Nimrod's going to come in there. Bryce actually used Nimrod already. When you get to Mojo, Mojo can be a tough fight. DLL really details this well in his overall comprehensive guide on video on this. But our Horseman Archangel just absolutely handles it. It's cool to see Overseer out there, but it's not surprising to see, what do we see, 4 Horseman Archangels up here. I don't think any of us used a 5-star, but I believe in version 1 of this, people did use 5 stars and you can be just fine. A-Bomb, I know this was a difficult fight for some folks. It caused some problems. Again, Horseman Archangel just kind of handles this. As you can see, there's 3 of them up there. People with Ghost didn't look like they had the greatest time, especially considering how good of a player they are. It's not shocking to see it. That can be a pretty tough fight. Keep that in mind. And then we're getting to the fourth and final path here. Professor X doing so much damage at this point. I don't think he's ideal for this fight. But if you have like MSD level skills or something like that, I'm sure you're soloing it. But if you're somewhere between MSD and me, you're going to have a pretty good time with Professor X. Cool to see Bryce there with Nimrod. Nerd was CGR. That was fun. Like a B, right? And you see he did use Cosmic Power Backs on there. See APOC and then Tigra. I think Campo used Tigra in his first run too. He had a really cool, unique, fun first run there. Sasquatch. Sasquatch is the other fight that it roadblocks some people in version 1, or I don't know to say version 1, but the first time this content came out, it really roadblocked people. Now, I absolutely loved APOC, and DLL does a great job of breaking down what you want to make sure of, but here's the most important things, right? If you want the too long didn't read version, is you want to make sure you're spec'ing to Despair. That's in the offensive tree, and you want to make sure you keep up your bleeds, because eventually Sasquatch will get to that point where he's healing, and you need to cancel that out. So you're going to want to land your SP2, you're going to land your SP1 and your SP2. Make sure you have all 4 of those debuffs up. You're going to get to your SP3, lock those debuffs in, so they're not only have they become more potent, but they are permanent. And then you're going to heavy as much as you possibly can. Sasquatch will eventually go down in that way, but you need to make sure you're spec'd into Despair. The fight could get really, really ugly. Cool to see another nice use from Bryce with Overseer. I love the way this guy plays the game. Nerd used Quake and Archangel. Archangel can be fantastic for this as well. Not surprising to see Apocalypse and Archangel as the main options for this, though. Killmonger was an interesting fight. I tried to use Cable in my first run. I felt like Cable went exceptionally well. In this run, it did not go well at all. And as you can see, this is why I was talking about, I really don't think I needed Cable, because the difference that it would have made was not being able to Horseman Archangel as early as I did. So maybe there was a price to be paid. Just the Terex fight was the bad one for me. But here's Archangel. Now, Fury was a C for Bryce on that. Everyone else was pretty happy with their Archangels here and even their Apocalypses. Void. The most interesting one for me was seeing CGR up there. Shang-Chi, not as shocked that he did so well. So that's a cool run there for Felganos. And then APOC. And then, of course, Herc. We're seeing our Herc come up here. I really do think you can use Herc for more fights, and you're seeing listed here. But I just know this group. A lot of us are kind of don't want to use Herc any more than we have to. But Blaze is a smart man, probably saved himself some items and some units using him. Fury, I had a good time with Apocalypse. Remember, I had on my power back boost. I think they were a little bit helpful. If I remember correctly, they definitely were for Professor X. And then you can see a variety of options there. Make sure you get in your repairs there against Fury. And then you can see the boosts that were used, right? I'm sure a lot of us did use champion boosts, so it's nice to DLL to actually call that out. But Felganos, myself, use those mutant power backs. They really are important for Professor X. That is absolutely sure. The fact that Felganos used them and he didn't have Professor X makes me feel like they were helping Apocalypse as well. I just didn't notice it as much. And then as far as recoil, the only one of us that ran it when it makes sense is Nerd. He used clearly Strife, and he was using CGR and Quake. So this makes a lot of sense. And I think he did Horseman his Archangel at some point. So again, that's really making sense for that. And then Campo did put them on for his Sasquatch fight, which he did with Archangel, which again makes a lot of sense. Get that fight going, get that damage down, get Sasquatch's damage down. So again, those are the fights I think you most have to watch out for. If you want or you're interested in a really comprehensive, it is excellent guide detailing the fights, check out DLL. He's got a great one. If you're interested in some other champions that could also be used, like I said, like Elsa Bloodstone, I think we had some runs with Aegon as well. It is in the version 1 of this for me, the OG videos. You can see that. We have the spreadsheet there. And then, like I said, I will be looking to add Slaymon's run if I can, or if he's willing to share that information. And then places where we can use like Hercules or just some other champions that come along the way. I will continue to update the spreadsheet as best as I can. And then again, help me thank the MCoC Illuminati, the rankings team, by going subscribe to the channel, let them know you came from here, and then make sure you click the bell so you get notified when they put out their videos. You'll get better at this game and you'll be entertained along the way. I hope your run goes exceptionally well. Make sure you have resources available for it. It is not easy, but it is doable. It's very fun content, in my opinion, if you're not stressed about your items. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. I hope you either learned something, were entertained, or even better, a little bit of both. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.